In this sense, we are going to continue. So look at in our paper demonstration series. So this was one of them, where we try to look at a particular work that makes use of ensemble-based techniques, which is the combination of different models of, different algorithms. So the combination of different algorithms to corporately vote to select the best, to select the final outcome. And we say it has been proven that an ensemble-based system, in most cases, will perform better than individual contributing algorithm, which is the unique capability of ensemble. Of course, comes with its own challenges. So, like the explainability of the model might become compromised or become difficult to explain or convey to the client. Also, it's going to come with a lot of computational complexity because it involves mixing several algorithms to generate several models, and then those models will have to be combined in different ways. You see the stacking, you see the boosting, you see the bagging, and also of other ways, the hybrid way of combining different models to generate better results. But the ultimate desire is to come up with the outcome that is going to be better than what an individual can do. And if you say in human balance, it is established that when many people come together, they can solve a problem better than what an individual would do. And that is exactly what ensemble-based system is doing. So as the paper goes, a novel ensemble-based techniques for the preemptive diagnosis of rheumatoid arthritis, so which is a very common disease and also very challenging to diagnose, especially early. And the idea is a preemptive. Preemptive means we want to see if someone is having this disease in our body earlier enough before the symptoms start, because often by the time the symptoms start, it's always difficult to reverse. But if we can know earlier before it becomes symptomatic, then perhaps some quick intervention could actually prevent the symptom from setting in. So, which is a principle like catch them young, that is, catch the system preemptively before it starts wreaking havoc on the system. Or why wreaking havoc silently without showing symptoms? Can you catch this disease and try to get them cured? So this is the idea of preemptive diagnosis. And there are several chronic diseases in this series. We've discussed a couple of them, and then we still have many more to hopefully cover in the future. So we've had two sessions of this particular paper, as you can recollect. We deal with the introduction and also for others. So, and then it's made a little bit very simpler because it's clinical data. Clinical data is available anywhere because it's very common to have a lot of medical application using imaging. Yeah, it's good. It's another way also of diagnosing. However, when you talk of preemptive diagnosis, usually before the symptoms start appearing in what imaging technology can capture, we can easily detect using clinical data, like basic blood tests can actually detect this kind of a system very early enough, even before any imaging system can detect anything either in the lung or in the bone, as the case may be. As we all know, anything that affects the body or human body they start from the blood. So if you can take samples from the blood, can we be able to test if anything is actually affected? So we are going to continue with the review of this work. So as we've covered the abstracts, where for this case of just a kind of quick revision, we say you need to make a very strong case for what you want to do. In what I summarize as, you need to answer the question of what, why, and how. That is what you want to do. Then why are you doing it? What is the essence of this project? And that why will be from 2 points of view. Why from telling us the advantages or identify the advantages of this work, and the why from the literature review, that try to see what has been done in literature. Are you not reinventing the wheel? Is there no one that has done the same thing before? So we need to be able to get gap identification. The second why is what I call gap identification. We need to identify a gap in the literature that will indicate where your contribution is still needed and why you still need to pay attention or to repeat or to do that kind of project. And then the how is how you want to solve this problem using machine learning in a preemptive manner, using clinical data, not imaging data, or as the case may be. Then also, it is always good to also have a summary of your result in the abstract level, summarize what the outcome you have achieved and the implication of the outcome. So, which I want to believe we've discussed extensively in the first and second videos. And after that, also the introduction is very important, which is more of elaborate abstract. You still have to write most of the what, why, and how that you have answered. Those questions you have answered in abstract need to be answered again in introduction, but at a deeper level, because now you need to provide citations, different citations that support what you are saying. Why in abstract? We don't have that luxury of any citation. There should be no citation in the abstract, but in introduction, as many as you can. If I say the more, the better, because that shows your grasp of that particular area and makes the viewer to actually be interested in proceeding with reviewing your work, as the case may be. So also at the same time, also the introduction is good to also end it with try to summarize some of the outcome of the work, what you achieve, and also the implication where appropriate. And we also say that we can always, since papers don't have table of content, you can always summarize at the end of the introduction a very short paragraph, analyze or telling us how the remaining part of the work is going to be arranged or has been arranged. So section 2 is this, section 3 is this. And then if you can identify the contribution depending on the paper you are, the journal you are targeting. Some journal will ask you to actually identify contribution. So otherwise, if no paper has that, then you should have mentioned your contribution under the justification, under why. So why, then you want to do it. And of course, in the description of the achieved result at the end of abstract or introduction. Of course, the review of literature also, we also already discussed this. So you have to review the literature to identify what has been done, and then to be able to put in the right perspective what you want to do and why you need to do it. Why should people pay attention to what you are doing? So you have to be able to show that, yeah, of course, people have worked in this area. You are not the first one to work. However, what you are doing is unique because of this. You have to make that very clear. So then I believe we also already discussed the materials and methods also. So we can check out the first and the second video on the preemptive diagnosis of rheumatoid disease. So the material, especially, this is very important. So it's good to have a very nice, what I call framework, experimental framework, or schematic diagram of your proposed model. So how do you want to build the model? So you can see here, so this say that sometimes figures can speak more clearly than words. So it's always good to have a very nice depiction of the procedures. So like data source, combining data, pre-processing, percentage splits, and also further, so that me looking at here can see at a glance what you have done or what has been done and how it has been done, so that we'll be able to repeat it, because it's very, very important. Reviewers, they're always looking towards seeing that what you have done can be repeated, which means it has to be very clear. So people should be able to know what you have done and be able to go through it. Then we also describe the description of the data sets. We spend a lot of time on this also. how the data were manipulated, the statistical analysis of the data set, which is always very important when you are describing your data. So all these have been mentioned. This is the correlation heat map, that is try to generate the correlation coefficient between your input and the output to see which of them is having better, if it's affecting the output either positively or negatively. Also, a couple of processing also were done, so they are also well explained. We mentioned it before. And then it's always very important, so whatever you have done, try to document. There's also the scaling system that was used, that is the normalization was used to make the data set to be in the same range of value. So if your data set have different value or different ranges, that means each of the features are having different ranges that are bigger or farther away from each other. Sometimes it's always good to do normalization, though not compulsory, but like I always say, let the data speak. Why don't you run your experiment first, see what you are going to get, then you can then be able to determine that, oh, I think this is not working out, then maybe I can try to do normalization. You can go back and forth and try to see the way it goes, always bearing in mind that let the data speaks. So we made through the description of the proposed techniques, which is very important. It's a step-by-step procedure that we need to take when you are reporting back your experimental work in machine learning. So we have the support vector machine, give us a little description of it. So not too verbose, not too detailed, but at least give us a little bit of mathematical insight to how it works. Logistic regression, the adaptive boosting. And then it's always good also to talk about the performance measures. What are the performance measures that you are going to use? Let us know, describe them. So because from problem to problem, or you have to look at the literature, what people use in the literature in the area you are working on, is good to use the same performance measure they have used. But if you think there's a performance measure that was missing, you can add it to your own, that's fine. But try not to miss what they have used, because that will be the basis for comparing your work to their own work, especially if people work in that area before. Then the optimization strategy, that is hyperparameter optimization strategy. That is, you need to optimize the hyperparameter. We described this one several times. We had videos talking about how to optimize your parameter in the weaker environment. So using the original data set, you try to check how what are going to be the value of hyperparameters to be used. You can see different parameters were tried out. So, and then we try to make plots, if possible, to see, the reviewer can see what you have done and how you have carried out the hyperparameter checking or searching or optimization, as the case may be. And then don't throw anything away, try to document as much as possible, things that will be beneficial to people. So sometime also, that is optimizing the algorithm using the upsampled data. That is, you try to also check sometimes, checking the hyperparameter. You're checking the hyperparameter using the upsample. You remember there is when you have imbalanced data. We described it in the first two videos also. There were imbalanced data problem, in which case the number of number of negative class was more than positive class, or positive class more than a negative class. Then you have to do oversampling or undersampling, as the case may be. Undersampling is when you reduce the one with majority, you reduce it to be in line with the one with minority numbers. While oversampling is you increase the minority to meet up with the number of the majority. So whichever one you are using, you have to make it very clear in the documentation. So the oversampling method has been used and has been explained in the first two videos. Then the results, the experimental setup, the way it has been shown. I think what we were here, the proposed voting example also, all what we have shown earlier, all those hyperparameter optimization here and there, it is good for you to have a table. In fact, They are all optional. All these kind of these diagrams showing how the hyperparameters were changing, though it could add, it could increase the confidence of your reviewer in what you have done. Because sometimes people don't do the experiment, they just manufacture numbers. These are some of the unfortunate situations you can come across. So, and that's why the reviewers always want to see evidence that, yeah, have you really done what you have claimed to have done? So this is one of the advantages of having this kind of diagrams, but they are not compulsory. But what is compulsory is you need to have a table like this that you are going to summarize the optimal hyperparameter for each classifier. This is compulsory. This table is compulsory. You see, we want to see what was the final value of hyperparameter you have used for SVM, what did you use for LR, what did you use for ADABUS, and any model you have built, you must tell us, so that if I open my Weka or any other platform, if I use this kind of parameter on your data set, I should be able to get the same value you are getting using SVM, for example. If I say the cost to C, which is C, gamma decant to linear, I should be able to get something like this or something very close to at the least. So this is very important. That's the hyperparameter table summarizing the hyperparameter. Then we also have the proposed voting ensemble. So voting ensemble have been proposed. The structure of the voting should be made very clear as has been done. So you have using the train data. You can see the SVM, LR, ADABUS. I believe we have discussed this also in detail in our last in the last edition of this paper review. So whereby you just briefly, you have the SVM, 3 SVMs were built. These are the several, you can see cost is 5 here, cost is 6, cost is 3. During the hyperparameter optimization, they noticed that some SVM were performing better, so they selected best 3 SVM, and then let them try to combine with best LR, 2 of them, and the best ADABUS. So, and sometimes the more the better in ensemble. We've seen an ensemble of over 151 models combined together. The more you have, the better, because we want several people, several models to combine together to judge, to decide the final outcome. And it has really proven that, yeah, you can always get better result using ensemble, of course, with the challenges that are associated with it. The next, there also, this is for the balanced data set, and then this is after the data has been balanced. This is before the balancing of the data. So several experiments are carried out deep level to be able to see how to improve the result. This is when they use the original data, the imbalanced data. You see, but here, after balancing the data, they also had, because when you balance the data, it's a totally different ball game. You can see now that at that point, they identified 3 SVM that were better, 3 LR, and 1 ADABUS that is acceptable in terms of threshold. So you have to set the threshold. Okay, any model that is above achieving so percentage of accuracy, I'm going to use it in my ensemble building block. And there are other type of ensemble whereby either the performance is low or not low, you want to use everything. Then there's advantage and disadvantage of that. We've discussed this in our detailed explanation on how to build ensemble systems. You can check out the video. Now, where we're going to look at, I think we saw was the result and discussions. So you have the result, initial result. Well, this experiment 1, experiment 2, as the case may be, because you have the experiment using the original data, you have the experiment after they have applied the oversampling to the data. So then the feature extraction, that was what actually where we stopped the other time, if I'm not mistaken. So feature selection, which is considered to have a vital role in building an excellent prediction model, has been used here. So sometimes you need to look at the number of features. If there are many reasons why you might want to do feature selection. It could be because you want to, the most important reason is, 1, to increase the accuracy, the performance measure. This is very important. Because in machine learning, we always go for the best, especially in medical. You want to predict in medical. You don't want to have very poor prediction. So you want to go for the one that will give you the highest possible accuracy that is devoid of mistake. And also, if there's going to be mistake, we can have, okay, lesser challenging mistake. For example, having false positive in medical is better than having false negative. And I believe we have explained this. Because false positive is predicting that somebody is sick, meanwhile, he's not sick. This is a mistake. We don't want it, but then it's still acceptable compared to when you predict that someone is not sick, meanwhile, he is sick. In that case, the person might go home thinking everything is fine and will develop a chronic form of that disease or complication later on. So feature selection, we want to look at it. Can we increase the performance through our feature selection? Especially if the number of features are big, then the problem we call cost of dimensionality might set in. The more the number of features, the more the number of samples you need to be able to get reasonable result. However, number of samples are always they are restricted to what the client provided for you. You cannot just increase the number of samples as you wish. So in this case, the only option you are left with is to try to look for feature selection. When you reduce the number of features, then hopefully the performance can be able to scale to a reasonable result because the samples are limited while the number of features are many. Another reason you might want to go for feature selection could be you want to reduce the number of, the cost of collection of sample. Because if you build a model for medical prediction like this, and we are using 45 features, what it means is if we finally get this model deployed in any clinic, it means anybody who wants to use this need to go and do 45 tests or need to answer 45 questions. That is too much for an average human being to do. So we want to bring it down so that it will be easier for people to respond to your questionnaire that, okay, can you use our medical system to check yourself preemptively to know if there's anything in your blood that you didn't even know before? This, oh, everybody will be interested, but by that they know that they need to go and do like 25 blood tests. They say, okay, many of them will say, okay, but they will never return back to you. Either because they don't have time for that, or they don't have the money, or they look at the rigor of having to go for 25 tests or more. So can we now develop it and make it of lesser number of features? Imagine somebody is solving the same problem that you have requested people to do 25 medical tests, and another person has solved it using just 3. You see, if I ask a question, which one will people go for? I think the answer is very clear. People will respond to the one with only 3 features, unlike your own that is having 45 features, especially if you're having almost similar performance accuracy. So this is just telling us some of the needs or the justification why you might need to go for feature selection. So feature selection has been done, and then there are several methods of feature selection. So we can refer back to some of our lectures that discuss feature selection. But here they use forward feature selection. That is, here you keep adding, that is, add one to here, add another one to here, and running the experiment at every stage. And then finally, you select those ones, the combination that achieve the best number of features for you. You can see for SVM, there's the number of features that generated. Okay, this one has so many features getting 91, as the case may be. So this is the voting, is getting 94. Also having 30. You see, 30, the same thing like this, but 30 features, which is high. But then others are a little bit low. 88, they are not closer. We do like the experiment 2, something similar also is playing out. So, and then we see this one. You can even see in the experiment 2, the LR is getting the max, the better result as the case may be. So we have to try several options that are possible for us. Then also backward feature selection also are employed because you have to try several options, especially if you're not getting yet what you need. We want to get 99% or 100% if possible. So they also try to use backward feature selection. And then you can also see them in the backward feature selection. Means you start with complete feature and you keep removing them, keep removing one after the other, and then trying to see which combination will give you better result. You see the same data set, you can see with backward feature selection. Look at what this one, voting achieved 93 point something, I think the maximum now, and it's even getting lesser number of features compared to earlier one. That's why feature selection has their own pros and cons, and they have that. Sometimes you have to try it out. No one can just tell you the best feature selection is this. No. That reminds us from last week's lecture, machine learning is not a dogma. You see, it's a tool. Sometimes the feature selection that work for you on one problem, it might not work the next time you have another problem to solve. So you have to always check. So there's this idea of try and error, it's always there. You have to check it out and see the word that actually work for you. So, and then the backward feature elimination, also we can see in for the other data set, the oversample data set, 92.52%. And then the discussion of result follow. You have to discuss what you have achieved, see what you observe from this table. That's the SVM other bulls. They generated the accuracy of SVM. That is the accuracy reduced by 0.75. You need to do some analysis of the results. It's not when you do discussion of result, we don't just repeat what is already stated in the table. No, we want to bring more informative points to the discussion of result. For example, telling us what is the percentage improvement that a particular model is providing over the other models, and also for that things that we can actually discuss regarding the data and the result that has been produced. So you also try to compare the performance of the model with the other ones, or as the case may be. So in the further discussion, if there are other things that you need to also talk about, then here you have to mention your discussion, especially if people use this work before, then you might compare your work with earlier work on the same data set in your further discussion. Otherwise, then this is a way you can see here now, you say the final result of the best selected classifiers. You can see here, without sampling, this is original data. They selected the best classifier that performed. Without sampling, when you didn't do any sampling, SVM was able to achieve these performance measures with 92 for testing, accuracy, precision, and then recall, as the case may be, with sampling. And then when you have sampling, LR did that, as also other boosts also was able to do something reasonable there, as the case may be. Now, so of course, when you do we have the voting, other boosts voting with sampling, without sampling, with sampling, without sampling. So this was also done. In that case, you can see the difference. With sampling, other boosts was a little bit lower. Without sampling, it means the original one, it was able to have 94% accuracy of what compared to other one. So then these are going to be juxtaposed side by side, and which one is giving us the best one. Of course, don't forget the feature selection that we did here also. You have to analyze them side by side. Okay, which one got the least feature? This is using 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, only 6 features with 92. That's not bad. While other has many features with just 92. So which one do we go for? So you have to analyze and compare all these before you take the final decision of, okay, which one is working for us and which one we finally settle for. Another important thing also that we do look at is what we call the confusion matrix. We also want to see the confusion matrix of the systems, of the models. How are they faring? So we see the true positive, the false negative, as the case may be. So which of them is having, this is medical prediction. So in medical prediction, you always go for algorithms, or sorry, models, the built model that is achieving, that is having lesser false negative. You see, because false negative is a no-no when it comes to medical applications. These were also presented and compared appropriately with each other, and then finally culminated in the final one to be selected. So also you have in the case of the ROC, area under the cuff also is another thing you can use when you plot the area under the cuff. We want to achieve straight line here, but you can see it's not straight, but then this is the wall, this is random prediction. But the closer this line is to the straight line, the better. So this is actually a very good prediction. So even though there's a lot of room for improvement, as the case may be. Of course, finally, you have to conclude based on all what has been done, conclusion and recommendations, what you want to be done. The papers recommend that further expansion of the work by including more data set from other repository to explore clinical laboratory tests that are more correlated with the target class. So the struggle with all the experiments, the maximum that could be achieved were like 94% accuracy, which means there's still a very big room. Even that 94% has been achieved using a very huge number of features. You see, almost 30 features, as the case may be. So we still want to go down, and yes, with 30 features, we're able to achieve the best result. So 30 features is more. So we don't want to go for medical tests, 30 medical tests. So this is the major feature work that need to be done as far as this rheumatoid work is concerned. Can we bring down the number of features? However, do we need to bring in new features that we did not even consider before? Maybe this is what we need to get better result. But for the beginning, 94% is not bad, but then the number of features is a little bit high. So works need to be done to bring it down. And the good news is, as you struggle to bring the feature down, you might also succeed in increasing the number of the performance measure of the system. So I want to believe this is all about this particular paper, as I said, that was published not long ago, and has to do with the Novel Ensemble-Based Techniques for the preemptive diagnosis of rheumatoid arthritis in the Eastern Province of Saudi Arabia. So published in a journal called Computational Mathematical Method in Medicine, these impact factors. So it's a Q1 rated journal, as the case may be. So this is what we're going to have about this particular paper description or demonstration for the rheumatoid arthritis. If you have any questions, so we can take a couple of questions or clarification. Thank you very much once again for listening, for the attendance, and I wish everybody, wishing you all the best. Thank you.